Hello, IEF sponsors, members, and friends. I'm Ellie Brown and current Idaho Environmental Forum president, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the IEF Legislative Week. IEF has hosted a legislative event since 1997, and even though we can't do it in person this year, we still want to discuss environmental policy with the IEF community. We are going to do that this year through a series of forum shorts, releasing a new forum short on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then on Thursday we'll wrap up the week with a live virtual event, which is something new for IEF. The schedule is as follows. On Monday, an interview with House Representative Speaker Scott Bedke. On Tuesday, an address from Governor Little. On Wednesday, a report on Governor Little's Salmon Working Group. And then finally, keeping with tradition, we will wrap up the event with a pundits forum. This event will be virtual and live, and we hope you join us online at 4 p.m. on Thursday. Finally, we want to give a big thank you to our 2021 sponsors, including our sustaining partners, our fellows, our supporters, and our colleagues. Now let's get started with our legislative week as Jen Visser, an IEF board member, sits down with Speaker Scott Bedke.
So hello everyone, thank you for joining us and welcome to Idaho Environmental Forum's very first virtual legislative forums week. I'm Jen Visser, a board member for the Idaho Environmental Forum. As you all know, the Idaho Environmental Forum is a nonprofit, nonpartisan educational association whose sole mission is to promote serious, cordial, and productive discourse on a broad range of environmental policies in Idaho. We're all aware that COVID has impacted our ability to do our annual legislative forum in person, so we're here today in a virtual format. We have Speaker Scott Bedke with us. He is the longest serving Speaker of the House in Idaho, and as we all know, he is probably one of our longest serving introductory speakers for this event too, so we really appreciate him joining us. He usually does a very good job of providing a high-level overview of what we can expect to see in general for this session, and then also does a little bit deeper dive into some of the environmental and natural resource policy issues we can expect. So with that, I will hand it off to him to start that conversation.
I like that. He usually does a good job. Well, it's my pleasure to be back again this year. It's too bad we can't be doing it in person. I enjoy the interaction with the audience. This year's is a little tougher. I mean, it's Thursday of the first week, and we've been sued a couple of times. We've been in the Supreme Court already with our oral arguments with the treasurer issue. We won one. There's another one pending. Anyway, so it's been a pretty active week. I think that the good news, though, for Idahoans is the fact that our state is doing well, despite all of this turmoil and the angst and whatnot. Our economy is doing well. I at least never would have thought, if we'd had this conversation back last March, I would have thought that our best case scenarios would be that our revenues would be flat, if not in some type of a mild recession. I think that was the general sentiment, and it's turned out to not be true. We just got our numbers in for December here yesterday evening, and even after they adjusted the revenue projection up, we still exceeded that by nearly $36 million. And so that's really good news. Now, that's not to say that our unemployment is not twice as what it was last year. We can point to several different factors there, but by and large, Idaho is still a very attractive state for business and for people to come and live here. So the real estate side of the world is booming. I can't think of a better term than that. Even down in the Magic Valley and places that don't normally experience that type of, the boom, by the time it gets to Oakley, is usually pretty well dissipated, you might say. But there are people that are moving there just to get away. And anyway, so it's an interesting time here, and so, as a consequence, Idaho is, the fastest growing state in the union. The Treasure Valley is the fastest growing area of that, and we have some growing pains, including, the property tax system. I think we're going to come to that this session and wrestle with that. Now, obviously, there's been some political changes at Ada County that will, I think, will act as a restraint on the Ada County budget, but they are addressing symptoms of a system that is budget driven. And if we're going to have a budget driven taxing system, then we all know that there's never enough money when you're setting a budget. So there's that. I think that but by far, the thing that has dominated the conversations this week and the weeks leading up to this first week were the balance of powers issues. The legislature was largely locked out of as per our system, so I mean no disparagement when I say locked out, of the political process this summer, and a lot of things happened. And the governor and the executive branch use legislative authority that had been ceded to them through the years, literally decades ago. These laws have been on the books for decades, and then have never been stress tested like they were this year. And so hopefully, in a thoughtful way, we'll reset some of that balance to insert the legislature back in the check and balance part of the equation. When you're in a time of crisis, that's probably not the time to walk away from your checks and balance system. And our whole system is built on that, and that is something that we would like to restore during times of crisis or disaster. I don't want to get into a second guessing what the governor did right, what the governor did wrong type of thing. It was a tough situation by all accounts. But I think that our system of government is best when there is this back and forth, and when you have the legislative process in which the governor figures prominently. And I think that's if I were to bottle all of the statements up into one statement, it would probably be that the legislature needs to be in the process. I think our citizens expect that. And certainly their elected representatives feel that way.
So it sounds like you're really going to have your hands full. You've got a number of bills out there on the kind of balance of powers you were discussing, but I wanted to bring the conversation back to, you mentioned earlier about the budget, and in the governor's state of the state, he mentioned having $600 million for water infrastructure projects. And as the Idaho Environmental Forum, we're certainly interested in kind of the natural resource and environment policy side of things. So do you have any insight into where that's going to lead us?
Well, and you meant 60 million. Okay, not 600.
Excuse me, sorry, yes. Minor math there.
Yeah, it's 1 0 anyway. But no, it's kind of an exciting time. I think, so the governor, we have surplus money this year that was unanticipated. And so the whole thought process is how best to invest in Idaho's future to save us money in the long run. If you get a windfall in your personal budget, then you may pay off the car. You may pay off something that you are having to make payments on. And I think that's exactly what the governor is recommending here with regard to water projects. That's an acknowledgement that there are water projects in our future, and those are primarily in three areas. Number one, we want to be ready to come up with the state's match with the federal government to raise Anderson Ranch. And again, water supply for the fastest growing part of our state. Number two, another big economic driver in the state of Idaho is the Mountain Home Air Force Base and their culinary water system, they need more water there, and we made steps to procure that water, and now we need to finish that project, put the pipeline in, put the treatment plant in, etc. Number three, and maybe more important for the people in my part of the state and for our major utility in the state, is to we need large-scale recharge locations above American Falls that will keep the natural flow in the Snake River. And your company and others have made major investments through the years on weather augmentation, cloud seeding. And that adds to the spring runoff, much of which just runs off. And we need to capture more of the spring runoff. We've done a really good job in capturing and doing managed recharge on the shoulders, if you will, of the irrigation season. But that big flush that comes in the spring is going underutilized as far as keeping it in the state or storing that. And so this is an acknowledgement of two things. Number one, that we need it and that it's necessary for our future, but it also, maybe in a lesser way, but no less significant, is that we trust the State Water Board has been doing a great job up to this point with the resources that they have, prioritizing the various issues. And of course, in a state like Idaho, north, south, east, west, the issues are a little different by region. And they've done a very good job in balancing the allocation of those scarce resources. This gives them more resources to allocate based on these priorities. And so I think that's definitely a good thing. And then, but it's also a good thing in that we're working to try to solidify our supplies, quantity, if you will, and then that allows us to pivot to quality issues that we've always known have been there, quality issues that maybe have not been addressed or not elevated to the way that they arguably should have. There's obviously a new administration coming in whose emphasis may be different than the last administration, and but Idahoans need to go to whatever the administration is with an Idaho plan that touches all of these bases: quantity, quality, etc., so that we can speak with one voice when we go to whatever administration. The last administration was not a pushover. This administration won't be a pushover. We still got to do the research. We've got to have the plan when we go with our ideas.
And that's a great segue into, do you have any insight into any other issues that might be of pertinence for this next federal administration in terms of environmental policy? Obviously, we've discussed the biggest one out there in Idaho is water at this point, but anything else you kind of see as something that they'll be bringing forward or as big challenges?
Well, we still have some unanswered, some open issues out there with regard to the sage grouse management, for one. Not everybody in the legislature likes to talk about or get into the details of the sage grouse management plan, but that is a surrogate issue for broader, more macro land management decisions. So it doesn't matter whether we're citing a new transmission line or a grazing allotments management. The umbrella over all of that is the state's sage grouse management plan, and we've come together on a plan. It's not been completely approved, and it's not completely through the process, and that's frustrating to me. And supposedly we had a friendly administration to get that done. It didn't happen for various reasons, and so that's an open question. As a cattle rancher, as a federal land permittee, that weighs on my mind for one issue.
Well, there's certainly issues at every layer. Obviously, at the kind of the high level, you guys will be busy with plenty of the bills that have been coming down this week on legislative and executive powers. We've got some of these natural resources issues at the state level and at the federal level. So
I want to bring up one other thing before we go. We chose, or it was chosen for us that we would not have a joint session for the State of the State. And that's the first time in my legislative career that we didn't all get in the House chambers and have this, the State of the State speech. Actually, we did it once at Boise State, now that I make that broad statement. But anyway, so we tried to do it virtually. And the technology was not there as seamless as we would have wanted it to be, to have that three-way conversation that you have in a joint session between the governor, the House, the Senate, and vice versa. So we all sat in our seats and listened to it streaming over our screens in the two chambers. And it buffered. And we weren't able to, it wasn't a seamless experience. So I had to think, how frustrating is it, if I'm a teacher in junior high and I'm trying to deliver education in a hybrid way, some days online, some days in the classroom, etc. How frustrating that would be. All of these issues point back to our priority has always been a great education system in the state of Idaho. And we've made great strides in getting our teachers better paid and, through the career ladder, et cetera, and emphasis on K-3 literacy. And I think that there are a lot of legislators that are thinking, man, I hope we didn't give back any of that progress with regard to literacy that we've been making. And so as I was watching the buffer wheel turn during the governor's speech, I couldn't help but think, and he was just at the good parts of his speech, and then it would buffer, and I can only imagine how it'd be to be a teacher and have that buffer.
Well, the good news is, it may have been buffering, but he also is invested in education, so at least you guys got one thing. You're aligned on this section. Well, thank you for those closing remarks. We appreciate you joining us. Very candid comments and good insight into what we can expect for this 2021 session. I do want to give a special thank you to our sponsors from the Idaho Environmental Forum. We certainly can't do any of our forums without their help, even more so in this virtual format. You can find more about them and the Idaho Environmental Forum at idahoenvironmentalforum.com. On that website, you can also sign up to be a member for the Idaho Environmental Forum. That's how you'll find out about these forums and other future opportunities with the organization, and we encourage you to do that. This is our first virtual forums week, and this is our first episode, so we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Thank you.